Hello everyone, my name is Alex, but people call me Doc. Welcome to Rules of None. Specifically, this is the first installment of my series No Bullshit, where I'm gonna go over field medicine practices, obviously with no bullshit. Not the way you're taught in the classroom, but what really goes on and what actually happens during an incident. Starting out today with what I think subjectively is the most important part of any field medics kit, the IFAK. Now, the reason I say this is because when you get to a scene or you get to a patient who has had something happen to them, this is the first thing that you pull out. Obviously, after making sure that everything's normal, this is the first thing that you pull out. Depending on your role in field medicine, so if you're a SAR medic or a combat medic or civilian tactical EMS or anything like that, it changes. A combat medic, obviously, if you're, 63W? I might have butchered that, it might not be 63. You are a designated combat medic, you carry a separate pack to everyone else. That's your AFAK, or what at least I call an AFAK, your advanced first aid kit. You don't have a need particularly for an IFAK, but if you're something like a field medic in search and rescue, you have an IFAK, and then you have extra medical stuff in your already pretty large rucksack. So this is just what you chuck down. Working our way from right to left, or I guess on screen left to right, I'll start with your gloves. These are your plastic medicine gloves. Obviously, you don't want to be wearing gloves like these for field medicine, mainly because blood and dirt can get stuck in like the pores, and you don't want to give your PT an infection. So every time you have to do something about a PT, you change into your sterile or semi-sterile plastic gloves. Next, we have just a small bandage for wrapping gauze, just accessible right there. Obviously, there's nothing more than that. The reason this is in plastic, I had to use my last one pretty recently, so this one's just brand new and I haven't unwrapped it yet. Next up, you have your ouchie boo boo plasters. Someone gets a little graze on their arm, you give them a Motrin and an ouchie boo boo, and they're like all set. Easy as that. Then we have our gauze pads. I have a few gauze pads in here, and then underneath I have oval eye pads, just in case, I need to do something with that. Down here we have one orange emergency blanket for if I need to keep track of someone in a hot zone or in a very neutral color zone, just so that, they're right there. Underneath it, I have a silver foil one. Not silver foil, but it's a silver foil, if you get what I'm trying to say. Under there, I have more gauze pads. I'll explain why later. And down here, I have a longer or wider, I guess, bandage. Working our way over to the left side, you have your antiseptic wipes. This is either 99.8 or 98% isopropyl alcohol, perfect for cleaning fucking everything. Underneath that, and I guess across, we have our drugs. These are purification tablets from water. Underneath the antiseptics, there is paracetamol, Panadol, or acetaminophen, depending on what you choose to call it, and some quick antihistamines. Here we have a CPR mouth guard. That was for when I was in SAR. It's just in case someone that's doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation doesn't like the idea of making out with the homies, and you give them that. In combat medicine, no one really gives a fuck. They do it all the time anyway. Here we have both a used gauze bag, I guess, and a bag for if you chuck anything bloody or personal possessions, depending on what it is. Here we have what's called combine gauze, which is just a lot of gauze, like a lot. And we have a few of those hidden back there and tucked away. Moving on to the external before the reasoning why. Standard molly. This is kind of shit, not gonna lie. I prefer laser cut, the ones with the slits in it. Up here you have Velcro, put whatever you want. Obviously, this is my medical bag. I either have this giant red cross or my rod of Asclepius attached to it. But it's dependent on who I'm with. You have your zipper that goes all the way around, your security strap, and then your buckle to go over it. On the back, you have your molly, although that one's notably shit. Now, moving on to the why. How I set up my IFAK is going to be very largely different to how you set up your IFAK, because I've set up mine from personal experience and what I use. My reasoning for this, I'll go over why mine's set up the way it is obviously everyone's different. Everyone has different scenarios, different situations that they're constantly in, so you'll want your setup how you want it. You don't want to copy mine, because then you're going to be scrambling, looking all over the place, trying to find your long bandage because it's not immediately there, right? So this is why mine is set up this way. This is not a tutorial on how to set it up, okay? Moving on. When I get someone, take my medic bag, my little IFAK, put it on the ground, unzip it, open it this way, specifically this way. Reason is, right hand is already at the gloves. Take out a glove with your right hand, put it on your left. My left hand is my dominant hand, which is why the glove goes on this hand first. Now, while I'm getting a gauze ready, or getting a bandage ready, I can have my left hand doing secondary survey, trying to find if there's any other places that the person is bleeding. If there is, you have your hand already on the gauze, it's already open, put the gauze on, and you hold it down. You hold down gauze for 3 minutes, apply pressure, never let go, lots of pressure. 3 minutes is when the clotting should start. Depending on the person's platelet level, it will change, but it should be around 3 minutes. Do not let go of the gauze until the bleeding has 98% stopped, or 90%, I guess. Once it's stopped bleeding majorly, if the gauze is bled through, take it off, put on another gauze, bandage it up. Keep it tight, but not too tight. You want to be able to sneak a finger or two under there, and you want color to return to the fingertips or to the toes, and you don't want it to be cutting off circulation. That is not a bandage's job, that is a TQ's job, and that is a different story. The reason I have so much gauze is because you just go through so much gauze in the field. If someone gets a pretty big cut just on the top of their skin, you're taking out gauze pads every half an hour because it just keeps bleeding through. Put all your gauze in a different bag. If you have a sterile bag, then use that, etc., etc. You don't want to keep a bled through gauze on someone. Bandages are different. If it bleeds through the bandage, just it's kind of a hard thing to do, to be honest. If it bleeds through the bandage, you probably are doing too much exercise. If it bleeds through the bandage, if you have a different one, obviously put it on. But if it's not major, then don't worry about it. Just put on another gauze, keep wrapping it up, keep moving. If it's bleeding through the bandage and through the gauze that badly, you probably need to get them to at least a warm or cold zone and get them medevaced, because they're not safe to be out in the field still. That is why there's so much fucking gauze everywhere in my kit, because you just go through it like a madman. Gloves are the same. If you've had one patient's blood on your gloves, you don't want to go and touch another patient. You want to get rid of that pair of gloves. There's 3 pairs in here. You shouldn't need more than that. If you need more than that, then there's something seriously going on, and your team shouldn't be where they are. Again, this is a mainly SAR setup. That is why mine is laid out the way it is. You go through a fucking lot of gauze in the field. As for anything else, leave any questions for me in the comments. That should be all for today. Doc out. Goodbye.